Welcome to a quick video reviewing the concepts of equivalent fractions and simplifying fractions. What we have here on this page is three figures. Each of the bigger rectangles represents one whole, and as you can see, half of each of those rectangles is shaded yellow and the other half is shaded white. So let's focus for a minute on the yellow part of the rectangle. So for this shape here, the yellow part is 1/2 of the whole rectangle. And that's the case in every single one of these. So the idea with equivalent fractions is that you could break up that whole rectangle different ways to get different fractions, but in the end, the shaded part remains the same. For example, in this first rectangle, if I wanted to, I could add a horizontal line across this way, now breaking this shape up into 4 equal parts, in which case 2 of them are shaded yellow. So that yellow part hasn't changed, but we could write it in a different way as 2/4. Similarly, if I wanted to, I could add 2 horizontal lines equally spaced so that that 1/2 that was originally shaded yellow, still the same amount shaded yellow, but this time 3 out of 6 pieces are shaded. So 1/2 and 3/6 are equal fractions. And if I wanted to, I could do something a little bit different here. I could put in a horizontal line, and then I could put in a couple of vertical lines, keeping each of the little pieces shaded, the size of each of the little pieces the same. And this time, what is that? 4 out of 8 pieces are shaded. So all of those are equivalent fractions. And if you look at the numerator and the denominator of each fraction to start with a fraction and create an equivalent fraction, what you need to do is find any number really that you want except 0 to multiply the numerator and denominator by. For example, if I multiply the numerator and denominator of 1/2 by 2, I get 2/4. If I multiply it by 3, I get 3/6, and if I multiply the numerator and denominator by 4, I get 4/8. Those are all equivalent fractions. So if I wanted to find two fractions that were equivalent to 2/5, there's certainly more than 2 that are equivalent to 2/5. You can choose any number you want. Maybe your favorite number is 4. If your favorite number is 4, you could multiply the numerator and denominator of this by 4 and get 8/20. That's one fraction that's equivalent to 2/5. If your favorite number was 7, then you could multiply the numerator and the denominator by 7 and get 14/35. Those are two fractions that are equivalent to 2/5. You can again use any number that you want. Here's another example. Write a fraction with a denominator of 20 that's equivalent to 3/4. This time we're told what we want to end up with. So we want to end up with a denominator of 20. So what I need to do is look at that fraction 3/4 and figure out what multiplier was used here to turn the 4 into a 20. In this case, 4 times 5 is 20, so I need to do the same thing in the numerator. 3 times 5, that's 15/20. So 3/4 and 15/20 are equivalent. So this is starting with fractions where the numerator and denominator are smaller numbers and building them up to a fraction with bigger numbers in the numerator and denominator. Those are equivalent fractions. You can also go the other way, which is called simplifying fractions. And to simplify a fraction, what you want to do is basically divide out any factor that's common in the numerator and denominator. So if I start with the fraction 12/18, I want to ask myself what number will divide into both 12 and 18. There's quite a few. 2 will divide into both. 3 will divide into both. If you can, find the one that's the biggest number that will divide into both. So I believe 6 divides into both of these. So if I divide both of those by 6, I get 2/3. There's no other number other than 1 that divides into both 2 and 3, so this is the simplified form. I will note that going back and starting over here, if you didn't notice that 6 divided into both of them, let's say you just started with 2, you can do that and get sort of an intermediate step of 6/9 here, then you might notice that 3 divides into both of those. And you get 2/3, and that's the same answer. So you can do it in one step if you choose a big common factor. You can do it in multiple steps if you choose smaller ones. And this last example here, simplify the fraction 28/42, or 28/42. I believe 7 divides into both of those. So I'm going to divide this by 7 and this by 7, which will give me 4/6. And then the fact that there's still a 2 that will divide into both of those tells me that I could have chosen a bigger number, I guess 14 here to start, but that's okay. I saw 7 first, so I used that. And then I'm going to divide this numerator and denominator by 2, and again I'm going to get 2/3. That's a coincidence that I got the same answer in both of those. So that's a quick review of how to write equivalent or simplified fractions.